Welcome back, subscribers. I'm gonna something that's kind of crossed my desk. I've been working on something for my business, a couple of my businesses that is interrelated to some changes and things that are happening in the financial industry and how things are going to. We're 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 gathering data and it's leading us towards a high relative probability of what's going to be happening. And my focus, because of my background in the housing industry for 30 years, is I have a high knowledge of housing, from building it to selling it, real estate agents, lawyers, contracting, the lending, the mortgage brokers, went through the 2008 crash, yada yada yada, whatever. So I have a real knowledge of this. So I use that as basically a guide, a template to say, like, okay, if it's happening in this industry, it's going to be affecting a ripple effect that's going to be happening to the other industries as well, the other markets. And this matters for people that aren't even like in investors, like just regular Janes and Jones Jays and Jones. So Joes and Janes. It's early this morning, but it's something that's crossed my mind. I was having my morning coffee, and it crossed my mind. I was like, yeah, I need to like timestamp this, because this as it continues to keep ticking forward and I keep getting more data. I thought, well, this looks like this is where it's leading, and I'm going to talk about it. So anyone that buys a property, like I said, the average Joe and Jane, you're an investor, 100%. So you might not look at yourself that way to say, oh, it's my homestead, it's my abode, whatever, mi casa, and I don't want to rent anymore. I'm going to buy a house. You are an investor, 100%. So this applies to anyone. Or if you're renting and you want to buy a house, this applies to you too. So this material is like for everyone. If you're living, unless you're living in the woods, in a cave, this doesn't apply. So basically, it's everybody. So this is going to impact the small fries and then the big guys. And the big guys, the reason why this is happening is because these changes that are occurring is because of ease and stopping there's like financial friction, if you will, in trying to buy something. If anybody's ever bought a house, it is an absolute freaking pain in the ass. They want to know every freaking thing that you own, everything that everything you've got. We need an audit of your books. And most people that aren't in business, it's difficult for them to go through this, because you set up your 401k and a lot of people don't even think about it. You get a statement in the mail once a month, or uh, you know, via email a little bit. If it's paperless, a lot of times you don't even see it. You don't even get an email. You're like, oh, I'm going to shut the email notifications off. I don't need to even look at it. So people have no idea. They have no idea. They have no idea what their outgo is or whatever. Like, how many people are taking their personal stuff and running it through Quicken, like where your actual expenses are. And probably there's a lot more people in today's age that are doing this, because things have gotten very expensive and people are, starting to have to microscope, their outgo, because, let's stop the bleeding. Like I want to be able to fill up the grocery cart or buy the new car, whatever else, like you just want to keep on rolling, and you don't really know why. And you get into the accounting and you're like, well, shit, this is the reason why. You can see it easily. Now in a business, we do that automatically. So if you're thinking of starting a business or you own a business, you already know what I'm talking about. But if you're thinking about starting a business, yeah, you have to deal with the accounting. Basically all that bullshit that you do whenever you try to buy a house and they want to know everything about you. Um, you got to do that, and it's audited yearly through the government, through the from well, it's audited, and it's yeah, through the bank, the IRS and the government. So what there's a problem in the United States right now, economically, that the bonds, that there are countries that are pulling on selling U.S. Treasury bonds. The yield on the bonds is very low. Everyone's anticipating it to be going up. The question is like, who's going to be doing the investing in the bonds to make them go up? Like, what's going to create this demand? And Trump passed this act called the Genius Act, and this came out 2 weeks ago. And I'm looking at it, and I've already skimmed through it, and it has to do with U.S. stable coins, this is crypto related. And this is also a really big factor for it's like another layer on the cake. So I listened to something this morning, and this is what kind of got me going on it. Was it's a podcast, and they had Dave Ramsey on, a couple of young guys. It's called like Iced Coffee Chat or something like that. I forget what the hell it's called. But anyway, I was just going through. It was like 8 minutes. I was like, oh, I read the tag, and I'm like, I'll listen to hear what Dave Ramsey's take on it is. And he doesn't have any idea. Like, nobody has any idea of how huge this is and how it's going to impact existing businesses and regular people buying property. And, Dave Ramsey's been pretty big advocate, property. It's a real estate license in like the 70s. And so same thing, same kind of angle you coming at it, real estate. And the reason why he focused on real estate is because the real estate market right now, if you take the national debt and you about almost double it, that's the value of all the U.S. housing in the United States. That's not part of anything. It's just in your pocket. So if you buy a house for, say, whatever, $300,000, $500,000, and you pay that off in 30 years, that property, if you have parents that have paid their properties off, and you're like, oh, I'm going to inherit the property. Okay, that technically is going on your personal balance sheet. That's a really bad place to be, because if anybody has been through this yet, and taken property from a deceased relative, they tax the shit out of you. They put the screws to you, and then you also have to take that in as income. And then you have to pay taxation. And typically what happens is, because people are ignorant and they don't understand how to navigate around this, they typically just sell the properties, because they start looking at the tax debts and this, and instead of holding the property, they sell it. And then they end up paying real estate fees, closing costs, and all this other bullshit. They've got to fix the house. They have to do all this stuff just to get it ready for market, to sell it. Because in this day and age, if you dump a fixer-upper, you're an idiot. Like the housing that is out there that people want to buy, it needs to be on par with like basically a brand new house, painted, all the holes in the walls fixed, hardwood floors sanded, new carpet, etc. And that's a pretty significant expense. And a lot of people that are getting these properties that are coming into their families, if there's a deceased relative, they typically aren't looking at it like it's a business. And they're just like, they're just sitting. So they don't have money allocated to be able to roll it into this property that isn't even technically theirs. And maybe they have some sentimental value because this was their bedroom when they grew up, and et cetera, et cetera. So they end up like dumping up property and end up accruing all this taxation and penalties and things like that, because you don't have any real rights to any of that. You do blood relative because you're willed into it or whatever else, but from a government taxation standpoint, administrative perspective, they look at you like you don't want to play the game. They're like, hey, this is a real asset, and you're squandering your opportunity. So they go, well, what's the workaround? Well, we talk about that inside of the group. So you come inside the paywall, and it's really cheap. But those are the things that I talk about, like very simple things that you can do to set yourself up, so that you can navigate around those penalties and be smart. Because the reason why you want to be smart is because of things that are going to be coming out of this Genius Act. And I am going to be time-stamping this and putting this out and saying, I think what's going to be happening, I know this is going to happen in the real estate market, but real estate is the same thing as gold and silver. All right. It's land. It's real world assets, gold, silver, housing, commercial property, land, mining rights, things that are real that you can wrap your hands around. So they're going to take something that's not real, cryptographic coins that they fictitiously, create out of thin air, just like the rest of our monetary system. And then they're going to bind that, marry it up to real stuff and be like, oh, that's really, that's novel. Yeah. Yeah. We're in a novel environment right now is in the financial industry. So by doing that, from a business perspective, you'll have a lot more versatility to be able to move these assets on your balance sheet to actually trade them. It will turn that into a security. You imagine if you could take a house or a rental property that you have and you turn it into a security, like a mutual fund. Think of it that way, right? And then you could have other investors come in and invest on your property, and you set the terms on the investments, but it goes out internationally. I was like, whoa, that is so powerful. And I dig into this and explain this because this is going to be a major driving force on how things are going to be changing around you, because big money knows the value in this, and because of the yield that you can make out of this. And they're going to move towards where they make the most money, the bottom line. Trump isn't going to hold a gun to their head. He's just going to change some of the rules and say, hey, you know what? We're going to incentivize you to do X, Y, Z, to tokenize these real world assets because they're bound to U.S. treasuries. And that helps support the dollar. So this death of the dollar bullshit that's out there, the dollar's falling, America is, it's being like, that is absolute horseshit, garbage. That's not real. So the plan in place is to basically circle the wagons and take the existing assets that are in the United States, housing, gold, silver, etc., and then inject them into the market. Now, when I thought about this originally, I was like, wow, that's very novel. And what would happen if that was the case? And these are the things that we get into. And I've got some extensive internal deep dives into this on some possible scenarios. But look for in the future here, I think it's going to come like pretty quickly, that the United States has a gold depository. We've got Fort Knox. We have gold on our balance sheet. But from what I understand, I've done some research on this. If you looked at the United States as a business, which it is, and you audited the books of the United States, the amount of gold that is inside that is on the books, it was the last it was audited, I believe it was in like around when they turned over from they switched to the petrodollar. I think it's 71. At any rate, it's way undervalued. So like what's on the balance sheet is like, I think it's like $40 an ounce or something like that. You can look it up. It's ridiculous. So you're like, wait a minute, gold's like $3,500 an ounce. Be like, exactly. So just multiply that out. Is that 10? Let's see, 3,510 1,000x? That's huge. At any rate, it's a ton of money. Now, think of this from a housing standpoint. You buy your house at $100,000, and then you hold on to that for, say, 60 years, and that's $100,000 house is now worth $500,000 or $1 million, right? But it's only worth that if you sell it. So what does that mean? The United States, in order to be able to get the money that's inside the depository and claim it on the balance sheet, is they're basically going to have to come up with some innovative plan to make it, give the illusion that they're sort of selling it back to themselves. So imagine if they own it, they have equity in it. They have equity in the gold coins or bars, whatever, all the gold depository. And if they can come up with a method to be able to buy it back from themselves, and then when they do this, it links it up to one of these stable coins. So they're going to create a new bond so that you could buy like US gold through one of these bonds, and it's linked to these stable coins. So they'll be able to run a transaction which will, since you're reselling the gold, it's going to be at current market price, $3,500. So the United States is sitting on, we don't really know how much money, how much gold is sitting in Fort Knox, but by initiating the new transaction, it redeclares it inside the jurisdiction of the United States. which then all of a sudden, like overnight, will show that the United States' value of a country is very high. Yeah, it's not on the books. I said it's exactly the same thing of you buying a house or your parents buying a house, paying the thing off, them passing and handing it over to you. And now all of a sudden you have, $1 million property that you didn't pay a dime for, right? And now it's on your balance sheet and you're going to have to pay the taxation to it, right? So that's a good thing. What do? You sell it, right? You typically, unless you have the money to pay for the taxation and get everything all straight, or maybe you're smart, you put it into a company, etc. So yeah, look to see the United States government linking their gold to these stable coins, which are then bound to U.S. treasuries, which will then increase the value of the dollar, because the dollar isn't really worth anything. It's not. Since there's been a steady decline since, basically, if you will go back to 1913 to look at the chart, it's something like 1.5 cents on the dollar is what the actual value is worth from its creation point. So they have to do something. And this is where people that are of the old mind, the relics, if you will, boomers, etc. And not to bash the boomers, but they don't have enough data points. They don't really understand the new hyper novel financial system that's been created behind the scenes through the crypto industry and AI and etc. And how it's been tested. This is something that, it's, to those of us that have been in crypto, it's nothing new. We've just been swapping it between wallets, but can't really, a lot of people don't understand the utility of it. Like, how is it actually going to be used? Oh, I'm going to buy a stick of gum with XRP and be like, that is horseshit. That they're going to have that, but the real money, they don't give a shit about your, 5 sticks of Wrigley's. All right. They care about big money. The only reason why they would do this is so that the money, the market makers can not necessarily make more money, but they have interest in bolstering the economy of the United States. If anybody believes for 1 minute that billionaires don't want to keep the system rolling and just run it into the ground, you have got rocks in your head. Like, these people don't understand like how much money is floated through the United States and all these corporations, of how much money is involved in it and how much responsibility they have. All right. There are histories that have shown this, in that this is nothing new. Back in 1907, for example, the Knickerbocker Trust, and we've got personal billionaire bailouts of the banks. This is pre-1929, that they didn't have a central banking system. They didn't have a system in place. It's like everybody hates the Fed and the bankers and all this other crap. And I'm like, guys, they created a balanced system that was able to move forward for 100 years now, which has been very robust in the United States. We have had an incredible experience as Americans. We're super lucky. And is it the best system? No. Are they going to make their money as robber barons? Yeah, of course they are, because they're the ones that have the money and the control. We need to take the control back and be like, hey, okay, Einstein, do you have the capital resources to run the fucking planet? Do you have it to be able to keep the corporations together so that you can keep buying your crap on Amazon and your cars and your everything else? It's the corporations that have been running everything forever. All right, so they're not going to allow this to go in the ditch. The dollar is not going to die. It's not possible. But that's all you see. That's all the crap that you see, and all this propaganda bullshit, and all these financial analysts, and they're looking at the data and everything else. Well, yeah. I mean, it's getting run down to basically a nubbin. There isn't anything left on the bone, because they don't understand the new system and how it works. Of course, the only way that you could look at it would say, it has to run into the ground. There is no solution to fix this problem, unless what I'm talking about, this Genius Act. That's why they call it the Genius Act. When you understand crypto, the new financial system, and then what the Genius Act represents and what it does, then you're like, absolutely, that is the best thing to call is a genius act. And this is like the New Deal is not the right thing to look at it. It's genius. It's absolutely fantastic. And it's assets that are already in the United States, and all they're doing is redeclaring them. All right. You're redeclaring them. Just like in housing. Housing is not on the books in the United States. So if you looked at the GDP of the United States, like what's the value of the actual dollar? In God we trust is on the dollar bills, right? What's the real value of the United States? It's trust. Well, it's in a trust. The trust of the United States as a business entity. But inside of the trust are assets that have not been declared on a balance sheet, which is guns, gold, silver, housing. It's not on the balance sheet. And they're like, oh my gosh, that means they're going to confiscate our property. No, that's not the case. For those that are willing to move into the new space, you will be rewarded. And you're going to make higher yields. You're going to be placed correctly. And those that want to stay in fear and be in the old system and think that they're going to be rescued by Palladians or Jesus or whoever else, whatever is in their bag of their belief systems, and they think that if it's Trump is going to solely save them or whatever else, that's crap. You have to save yourself. And if it's saving that you need, just get educated. Why do you need to be saved? Why are you a victim? You're like, they are setting up a system. It's like educating yourself on how the new system works so that you can thrive in the new system, and stop listening to these idiots that have no clue. You have to know the financial system. You're going to have to understand how the real estate market works, real world assets work. You're going to have to understand the crypto industry and not only just moving coins, but you're also going to have to understand what each coin and token does, what it's for, what it's used for, and how it can be bound. Like, what's an LP token? We go over that. But essentially what's happening with the Genius Act is they're creating an LP token it's a liquidity token with real stuff. All right. We're going to bind housing, gold, silver on a crypto coin, which is backed by the US Treasury. It's brilliant. Genius. Absolutely genius. So there'll be more to come. If you want to know more about it, I'm going to go into depth on it, and I'm going to have, we're on the hunt for some interesting interviews. And most of the people that I'm going to get on, and what we found, just kind of from preliminarily reaching out to people, is that we're looking for people that are entrepreneurs, business owners that are, they're looking for opportunities and have a generalized understanding of the crypto space. Those are going to be the interesting interviews. And those of you that don't know about it, you'll learn because there isn't going to be a way to get around it. This is like going to be behind the scenes type of information because they're not going to send you a memo. This is the way that the rich and wealthy, their playbook that they always do is they make the changes because they're the money market makers on the backside. And they're going to try to swallow up as much as possible until the peasants figure it out. That's it. Like you're not going to get educated at your colleges and so on. It will take some time. What we're anticipating right now is that we have I've got a contact at Duke University, and they just opened up a crypto graduate program just like this year. So give it about 2 years, and then after those students graduate, those classes get accredited for that. That's when you're going to see real change. So 2027, mark your date. So somewhere between 2027 and I'd say up to 2030 is when things are going to get very interesting. Very, very interesting. Lots of market movements because they need to have people that understand how to do this, how to be able to move assets and digitally declare them. All right. So anyway, more to come, and it's really exciting times. I'm super, super optimistic. And as more information that comes in that I get, and the more people that I talk to, I'm like, oh my gosh, it feels like I'm like, like I'm molting, like I'm shedding skin, or snake analogy is not probably that good, but like I'm thawing, or I'm like Han Solo, and I'm coming out of my carbon freeze. All right, so it's like I feel like it's just everything is just thawing away, and I'm gathering all this information along the way, and now I can put the puzzle pieces together, and it takes the administration to change policy and me to say like, oh, we already have all these ingredients over here. I know what this means. I know what these guys are doing. So yeah, exciting times, everybody. So anyway, if you want to hear more, check us out. It's our website is reservoirhuman.com, and it's a reservoir of data. We're going to be archiving data for general population. Anybody can come in, but stuff like this is going to be free, that you can listen to it free behind, and then the good stuff is through the paywall, and it's not expensive. You can just check it out, and if it's not for you, it's not a big deal. But this is not for public consumption, because I'm not getting on some soapbox and spilling out and wasting my energy on people that don't have the ears to hear and the eyes to see. So cheers.